Oh, hi, back for our third try tonight. We were actually going to link that Lord that awakens to the passage that we've been trying to take a look at that appeared in Songs 4:1. And we looked at the word dove, we looked at the word shorn, we looked at the word washing, and lost. Lost meant bereaved, robbed of offspring, which led us to Romans 11. Israel had obtained that which she sought for, which was her children. And so all those, that word Israel has obtained in Romans 11 will eventually lead you out to the idea of her children, her offspring. I may take down my last video, I'm not 100% sure. I didn't like the way I ended it. It was quite abrupt, and some people don't like that. The washing reference simply leads us to Isaiah 4:4 with the understanding that the blood has to be washed off of us. We are not washed in blood, we're stained in it, and it has to be washed off of the daughters of Zion, the filth off of the daughters of Zion in particular, who is purchased. They were purchased long ago. The congregation of the Lord, it tells us in the Old Testament, was purchased long ago, and they were purchased with the truth, not by blood. And a thorough study in the Old Testament, which nobody wants to do because the theology has already been laid down and thrown in your face, and nobody wants to really go in and study the Old Testament. And I always thought that that was our job as saints, to really go in and to search for the truth and to desire for the truth. And most people find the truth that I'm showing them quite offensive. I'm not going to stop. The Spirit has led me in the direction I have gone, and I'm not about to stop until the Spirit stops me. And it'll be the Spirit's decision, it'll be God's decision, it won't be anybody else's. And so we were going to link a passage in Song of Songs to the Lord that awakens, because we had seen that. And also I had mentioned Ecclesiastics, a verse I had hit on in Ecclesiastics, and that jar was feminine. Well, if we understand what a jar does, these jars of water that you see pictured in images of passages of the Old Testament, they'll have these water jars. And jar is feminine, and it is the female that holds the water. We're told that in Proverbs 5, as well as the bride being a fountain sealed, a garden sealed. And so, I mean, that's just, if we study the word, we know this. We know this. So in Song of Songs 8, is that the first passage we want to look at? 8:5, because we have looked at the verses in the Old Testament where it says, the Lord awakens. Well, this is the Lord that awakens. It's daughter Zion, and we have identified her number over and over as 136 that sits to Christ's right hand in Psalm 110. She is the scepter between his feet. Shiloh is the name of that scepter. And we can connect that again to Virgo with the crown upon her head, with the 12 stars upon her head. And all of that, once you understand those passages and you link them all together, you clearly see who the branch is, who the scepter is, who the ruler of the kingdom is. But again, like I said, nobody wants to hear it. They've absolutely had too many lies pumped at them for too long, and they refuse to go in and study the divine feminine, especially, oh no, that's bad, can't do that. So I've got Song of Songs chapter 3 up, and that is verse 5 that we want to read. So it says, I charge you, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, by the roes and by the hinds of the field, that ye stir not up, nor awaken my love. It says, till he pleases? No, it's till she pleases. And a couple of the translations actually has it as she when you go through. This one says, I adjure you, O daughters of Jerusalem, by the gazelles or by the hinds of the field, that you will not arouse or awaken my love until, it does say, she pleases here. Well, why is she sleeping? Why not awaken her and arouse her until she pleases? Why isn't it until he pleases? Because he ain't that kind. I'll do what I want. No, he loves her. And this Lord has power. And it's her power. It's a divine power. And it's her divine right to this power. Just like his is. So here he says, don't awaken her. Don't arouse her. Don't arouse my love. Don't awaken my love until she pleases. Well, that leads us to those passages that we have spoke on over and over again. Psalm 78. It says, then the Lord awoke as from sleep, as a warrior wakes from the stupor of wine. So what did we discover was the wine? Well, we discovered the wine is allegorical to the admixture of doctrine, of blood and water that comes together. And Moses, you see, parting that Red Sea. And when you go look in the Strong's Hebrew Concordance at the words gave for the Red Sea, you'll realize that it came to be, the understanding was that it flowed down through the reeds and caused it to become a very bitter water. Which is what this admixture of doctrine becomes. It becomes a very bitter doctrine, particularly to the women. It puts them in an accusatory light, and so many other things. But anyway, that's your allegory to the admixture of doctrine, and Moses has to part it, and he can part it because of the presence of the Lord, which we identified as this double camp with the Shulamite, which again takes us back to the lilies of the covenant and all of those passages that we looked into over time, over many videos. So the Lord that awakens, you find her right here, right in this passage. Then the Lord awoke as from sleep, from a stupor, from a torpor. We keep looking at that word. It appears in the New Testament, all right? With these daughters that do awaken from this torpor. And it means their spirit finally wakes up, takes a look around with the eyes of God and just sees for themselves. And the word in the New Testament, I believe, is eido, or it's very closely linked to that word eido in Greek, E-I-D-O. And it has the idea that you are to use your physical eyes to bridge the world between the physical world and the spiritual world. So it testifies, at least to a degree, to the spiritual world. And that's why we're to use our physical eyes to take a look around us. And so here we have this Lord that awakens as from the stupor of wine. Then you have Psalm 44:23 also speaks of her. Wake up, O Lord, why are you sleeping? Arise, do not reject us forever. Psalm 73:20, like one waking from a dream. So you, O Lord, awaken and despise their form. Where does that lead us to? That actually leads us to Isaiah 29, when it says, she will awaken as if from a dream. And that's the Lord there in Isaiah 29. It says they have laid a siege against Ariel, and she became an altar hearth, meaning she was burnt to ashes. So she's also represented as the heifer, which appears in the Abraham covenant in Genesis 15:9. Then you have the she-goat, which is these lilies of the covenant, identified as a flock of she-goats that is shepherded by the shepherdess. She's also been identified as the Lord that awakens from this sleep. And then in Isaiah 29 and other, she's been identified. Hard study is going to do that for you. It's going to identify who this Lord is. So 29, where does it say it? It says, let's see. See if I can find it here. We'll find it. Verse 7. So Psalm 29, verse 7, it says, "In the multitude of all the nations." There we go with the gathering of the nations around her again. That says, "Let her eyes look upon Zion, let her be defiled." And the multitude of all the nations that fights against Ariel, the lioness of God. We're going to take a look at that in a minute too. "Even all that fight against her and her munitions and that distress her shall be as a dream of a night vision." So she is this Lord here that awakens, which also links you back to her beloved saying in Song of Songs 3:5, "I adjure you, O daughters of Jerusalem, by the gazelles or by the hinds of the fields, that you will not arouse or awaken my love until she pleases." And that's why they put that question to her in Psalm 44:23, "Wake up, O Lord, why are you sleeping? Arise, do not reject us forever." And she awakens from sleep, and she becomes this warrior then that you see in Isaiah 42. We've discussed this passage as well. And it says in verse 14, "I have long time holden my peace, I have been still and restrained myself. Now will I cry like a travailing woman, I will destroy and I will devour at once." Remember that word destroy and devour, okay? Because that's going to take us back to the name and meaning of Ariel, the lioness of God, which is also going to take us to a passage in Micah 5 in a minute. So this isn't easy to hold this all together. "I will make waste mountains and hills, and I will dry up all their herbs, and I will make the rivers islands, and I will dry up the pools. And I will bring the blind by a way that they knew not, and I will lead them in paths, the straight path, that they have not known. I will make darkness light before them." She's promised she is the light of the world. "And crooked things straight." We're told she's the light of the world, and she will not only be a light unto the Israelites as Israel, but also a light unto the Gentiles. And that's promised her in Isaiah 49. And it says, "Ephraim, it says, the son of my womb, how could I forget you?" No, it's the daughter of her womb. And then in another passage, and I believe it's in Hosea, she states that Ephraim is the firstborn of her womb. And that is the daughter, meaning the birthright belongs to the daughter of Zion. And yes, it's a nation, but it is also one, the queen. Eve was not many when she was created in the beginning. She was one. Adam was not many when he was created in the beginning. He was one. And yet they'll take the woman and they'll make her many. Well, the only reason that you can possibly do that is because the host belongs to her, the birthright. So when it says the Lord of hosts, it's actually a reference to the feminine. That's who that's a reference to. And so "I will bring the blind by a way that they knew not. I will lead them in paths that they have not known. I will make darkness light before them and crooked things straight. These things will I do unto them and not forsake them. They shall be turned back, they shall be greatly ashamed that trust in their graven images, that say to the molten images, ye are our gods." So God says in Deuteronomy 4, "You saw no image of me, make no image of me." And we ended up with a triple male Godhead with the feminine being kicked right out. Oh, no, there's no such thing as a female God. If you want to put a female God, then it's the bride, which is every male, woman, man, woman, child that is going to be washed in his blood, the bridegroom, one blood. But all the rest are the bride, and she will be washed. We'll call it a she, although it's not just a she. We'll call it she, and we'll wash the bride in blood. And in that sense, we'll say she's the female God. No, wrong story. That was the twisting. That's the crooked path. That's the lying theology, the admixture of doctrine, and the mountains that she's going to take down that we've discussed that appears in Zechariah 4. Okay, so let's see what else we got here. Okay, so, yeah. So Zechariah 2:13 says, "Be silent before the Lord." The Lord here is 3068. So 3068 is her when she's in her position of power. She's mother just like she's daughter, right? She's cut from her mother. So it says, "Be silent before the Lord, all people, for she," not he, "has roused herself from her holy dwelling." And that's her. That's the Lord. So I wanted to link that also to Song of Songs 8. He also says this to her. Okay, so I'll have to parallel that. So it says, "Who is this coming up from the wilderness, leaning on her beloved? She under the apple tree, I roused you there. There your mother conceived you. There she who was in labor gave you birth." So who's being birthed here? She's being birthed. And yet at the same time, she's the one that's travailing. You see? And but this is the spirit being actually cut out. And when you read, what's the passage? I believe it's Hebrew 3:3. It says he was the image. The, what's the word there? It has the idea of an exact copy in Hebrews of Christ. He was an exact copy of the glory. But that's what these daughters become. They become an exact copy of the Spirit, their mother. So for this man, that's italicized, so they actually stuck it in there, was counted worthy of more glory than Moses, inasmuch as he who, no, that's the wrong passage. It's 1:3. Who being the brightness of the glory and the express image of his person, and upholding all things by the word of his power, when he had by himself purged our sins, sat down on right hand, majesty on high. Well, we've already discussed what's wrong in that verse. The fact is, though, he was the express image, just like these daughters are the express image of their mother. They're cut out. So the way that they are doing that is to become the mothers, all right, of earth. Although she's travailing to bring us forth, then the reflection is that we are travailing to bring the others forth. So the meaning of first fruit in Hebrew was a promise to come. So these mothers of truth are a promise of what is to come. Because if the mothers are holding the waters of truth like they are supposed to be holding, then they are the promise of what is to come. All right? That's the idea there. Now, what else did I want to go over here? I had so many things I wanted to go over. See, when I'm studying, I'm moving through passages so quick in my mind. And but when it comes to making a video and piecing it all together, it becomes much harder unless I take hours and hours and hours to write it out. I really should have a recorder. I'm sorry, I'm babbling. I don't mean to babble. So what else do we have here? How did that connect? Because there is a connection. How did I connect that? Yeah, it was connected to the bowl judgment. I can't remember right offhand how I ended up connecting the bowl judgments. So first let's go to Ecclesiastes 12:6, because this was the verse that I had mentioned on the tail end of my other video. Let's see, where is it here? It is right, I think it's this one. Okay, so Ecclesiastes 12:6 says this. It says, remember her, not him. It means the spirit. Before the silver cord is severed and the golden bowl is broken, before the pitcher is shattered at the spring and the wheel broken at the well. So, I forget which word is in there, but there's a word there that means jar. Yeah, let's read the New Living Translation. It says, yes, remember your Creator now, while you are young, before the silver cord of life snaps, and the golden bowl. Now, the golden bowl is actually representative of the Holy One, the golden, the Grail, holding the water of truth. And it is water, it is not blood. Don't wait until the water jar that's holding that water is smashed at the spring and the wheel pulley that's holding that bucket up of water is broken at the well. And you see, that verse connects us all to the bride, right? To your bride in Song of Songs. Let's just go in here. Song of Songs 4:12 tells you it. So Song of Songs 4:12 says this. It says, a garden enclosed is my sister, my spouse. A spring shut up, a fountain sealed. Whose sister? Judah's sister. What was her name? Her name was Israel. That's what her name was. Who was Judah? Judah was the south kingdom. Who was Israel? She was the north kingdom. What happened to the daughters? They ended up being cast out into the fields of the Gentiles, into a land not inhabited, because the houses have cast us out. That's what they said in Jeremiah 9. The wise women of Israel said they lamented and they mourned because their houses had cast them out. And it's allegorical to the spirit of this covenant being cast off of this body. That's kind of what you're looking at. And that was due in part to the men of Judah, and in particularly one we can point at that daubed the gates of David up. And that was King Solomon, who put in a harlot in the portion in the midst, known as the flock of Bozrah, to a harlot spirit that would teach his man-made religious lies. And in effect, God actually warns them, Mother God, Father God, both of them together, warns the daughters, flee, because this is not your rest. You will never find rest amongst these men. So it's also fulfilling of the promise that she made to the Israelite men that were casting off the scepter of the daughters of Zion, who represented their glory, and didn't want him, and was receiving the water, the honey, from the women that Balaam had told Balak to go in and get, and that was allegorical to serpents that was poisoning them. And then you get it being allegorical to tickling of the ears. It was honey on their tongue, but it was cobra's venom in their stomach. It was literally killing them, is what it was doing. And so Moses is instructed to raise up a fiery serpent on a pole, because this actually represents your seraphim, who was to be your glory. And we know that it says she actually turned to be against them because they cast her off. They did not want her anymore. And you get this strange, and you get this D little passage, actually, if I can locate it, because it's not easy locating passages when you've got so many up. But it's found in Isaiah 28. What does it say? And this little passage is judgment on Ephraim, is what it reads here on Bible Hub. And in verse 3 it says, the majestic crown of Ephraim's drunkards. What were they drunk on? The admixture of doctrine, the lying theology that tasted like honey. In this case, they were drunk on it, on their tongue. It tickled their ears, but it was literally killing them. And we see later in Isaiah 29, they're actually filling the table with vomit. And that is allegorical to a lie. Lies. Ew. Anyway, the fading, the majestic crown of Ephraim's drunkards will be trampled underfoot. The fading flower of his beautiful splendor, set on the summit above the fertile valley, will be like a ripe fig before the summer harvest. Whoever sees it will take it in his hand and swallow it. On that day the Lord of hosts will be a crown of glory, a diadem of splendor to the remnant of her people. Now, what are you seeing there in that passage? Verse 5. I'm seeing Revelations 12. That's Revelation 12 is what I'm seeing. On that day, the Lord of hosts will be a crown of glory, a diadem of splendor to the remnant of her people. So she's also that scepter. And I did link it. I can't remember how I did it. Because you have to go in, you have to do so much studying. And when you do that, that's how you begin to link it all back to the divine feminine, and that she is the Shiloh. She was the gently flowing waters of Shiloh that they rejected. They did not want them gently flowing waters of Shiloh. So here she's dealing in judgment against the men of Ephraim is what she's actually dealing against. And what does she say in Hosea? I think it was this reference in Hosea 9:10. I found Israel like grapes in the wilderness. I saw your fathers as the first fruits of the fig tree in its first season, but they went to Baal Peor. You see, that's why she's saying, coming against Ephraim in judgment in Isaiah 28. But she says, but they went to Baal Peor and consecrated themselves to shame. So they became as detestable as the thing that they loved. You see what they did? And Micah 7:1, woe is me, for I am like one gathering summer fruit at the gleaning of the vineyard. There is no cluster to eat, and no early fig that I crave. Wow. But Hosea 9:10 tells you what they did. They went to the teachings of Balaam. And that was due in part when Balaam said to Balak, go get your women, send them in, seduce the men, and we'll take the right hand of God, identified as the daughters of Zion, where the men were to receive their waters from. And what they do? They went to Baal Peor. What did we discover Baal meant? We discovered Baal was simply another word for your husband, who wants to be your Lord and your master by writing laws that subjugate you under him. And this is what tickled him so much. And then you see that taking place from beginning to end as Baal shot at the daughters who climbed over the wall. We're going to get into the wall here too, maybe in another video, and the day of the Lord. And but Ecclesiastes 12:6. That bowl there actually led me to another passage, and that was found in Zechariah. And sorry, I know I'm forgetting detail. Zechariah 9. And this was amazing what I found in Zechariah 9. You go over these passages, but boy, you tend to miss out, because you're in through so many passages that you'll miss this one, you'll miss this one. So we studied the Queen of the South, right? And we studied the word that was gave for south in the Old Testament, which was Teman, right? So what does it say here in Zechariah 9:14? It says, then the Lord will appear over them. Who's the them here? Well, if you pull up, and I think they put the wrong one here, but if you pull up the word they, which is Hebrew number 2004, it's plural feminine, and that's what I think belongs here, plural feminine. Then the Lord will appear over them. Her arrow will flash like lightning. The sovereign Lord, that's daughter Zion's number, who's awoke from sleep, 136. She's the one that sits at the right hand of Christ. And mother sits to the left, and her number's 3068 in Psalm 110. And she says to her son, all right, who is the priest after the order of Melchizedek. She says to him, I will send the branch of your strength out of Zion. And that branch that sits to his right, his daughter Zion, is at the right hand, Teman, right? So then the Lord will appear over them. Her arrow will flash like lightning. The sovereign Lord will sound the trumpet, and she will march in the storms of the south. There's the whirlwind. We're getting the whirlwind. And she threatened the men of Baal, or the men of Belial, or your husband who wants to be your Lord and Master, and wrote wicked laws of violence and subjugations against his sister to the north, Israel. And she promised them, when they put that fake wall, when they put the wall up and daubed it with a whole bunch of lies, is what we get in our allegory, she promised them she was going to come against them with a whirlwind. Well, that's the meaning of the storms here out of the south. The Lord will appear above her people. Her arrows will fly like lightning. The sovereign Lord will sound the ram's horn and attack like a whirlwind from the southern desert. You go and you look south up, it's Teman. Well, what's so important about Teman? Well, because it linked us to the Queen of the South, which we did the video 2 or 3 videos back on the Queen of the South. And here we have the sovereign Lord coming from the south. That's daughter Zion's number. And it means Teman. And why is it important? Because of the passage in, now do I have it up? I had it up. Let me see if I've got it. Anyway, it's Habakkuk. We'll go to it. I believe it's Habakkuk 3, chapter 3. Okay, so Habakkuk. No, I'll get there maybe. Nope, going the wrong way. So Habakkuk 3. What does it say? 3:3. God came from Teman and the Holy One. The Holy One. So these are the Holy Ones here, but there's one there. But what does it say? Right? God will sound the ram's horn and advance in the whirlwinds of the south. God came from Teman, from the south, and the Holy One from Mount Paran. That's the branch, is what the word Paran is going to run you out to mean, the branch. And the branch is the new tree, chosen as Israel. And her glory covered the heavens, and the earth was full of her praise. All right. So that's why Teman in south is so important. And here, that's what she's doing. She's, now it's disappeared on me. I'll find it. Yeah, it's disappeared. It's gone. Okay, right there. So then the Lord will appear above her people. Her arrows will fly like lightning. The sovereign Lord, that's 136, will sound the ram's horn and attack like a whirlwind from the southern desert. Yeah. The Lord of hosts will shield them. What does she often say? The shields of the earth are the Lord's. So she's saying by shielding them, she's got her full spirit on them. That's what she's saying here. I'm protecting them. They're my right hand on earth now. That's what she's saying. I am indwelling my pleasant land. I have taken my covenant back, is what she's saying. The Lord of hosts will shield them. They will destroy and conquer with sling stones. 68. They will drink and roar. Where do we hear roar in the Bible? Well, Ariel, if we remember, meant the lioness of God. And she became an altar hearth burned to ashes. And she became an ash heap in Psalm 68, where you find the congregation of the north, which just so happened to be the inheritance, which was the congregation that she purchased long ago. How does she choose to purchase her first fruits? Watch what she says. And it is she. There's no way you're getting he out of it. Unless you want to play dummy or be delusional and say, well, no, it's a test. You're right, it is a test. You're right, it's a test. That's why it says, narrow is the way. So 1:18, of her will, her own will, begat, birth, she, us, not he. She, us, and the word is there, gave birth, as in literally birthing a child. She, us, with the word of truth, the water of truth. That we, the daughters, should be a kind of first fruits of her creatures. So these daughters here, you're seeing her taking them back. The Lord of hosts will shield them. How does she shield us? She shields us with her spirit upon us because we are her first fruits that she purchased with the water of truth. We are washed. Isaiah 4:4. She says, I will wash away the filth and the blood off of the daughters of Zion, which are her first fruits. They are also her firstborns. They're the beginning. They're the preeminent ones. They rank number one in order. They will destroy and conquer with slingstone. They will drink and roar. There we go with that devour. She will destroy and devour at once. As with wine. And they will be filled like sprinkling bowls. There we go with bowls again. Drenched like the corners of an altar. What is that going to take us to? There we go. Now we're hitting our stride. It's going to take us to the bowl judgments in Revelation chapter 16. But we need to backtrack. Because in Revelation 15, we're going to get the song of Moses. And that's important. Because we know the presence of the Lord, identified as the daughters of Zion, was the Spirit upon Moses, and the reason why he could part the admixture of doctrine. You get it like a birthing process. And the nation of Israel goes through this admixture of doctrine, just like they are the firstborn of mother. You see? And so she's saying the nation of Israel, but we're dealing with the first fruits as the daughters of Zion, who is the branch that this daughter comes upon, her spirit comes upon. They are her pleasant land to claim for her own. And so she shields them with her spirit, is what she's saying here. And it is the south. She's coming from Timon, and she's coming upon her branch in Habakkuk 3:3, right? Paran. It'll take you to branch. And it's the new tree, the new branch, sprouting as they are holding the spirit of truth upon them now, represent as the daughter of Zion, the sovereign Lord of the kingdom. She is the scepter that Judah is protecting until Shiloh comes. It says they rejected the gently flowing waters of Shiloh, and it says, I will rule now with a rod of iron. That rod of iron you see in Psalm 2. They didn't want my easy flowing waters, then fine, we'll use 1,000 years to cut away those who wants nothing to do with me. And that's what the millennial reign is largely about. But we see the Spirit coming upon these daughters as the shield that will protect them. They will destroy and conquer with slingstones. They will drink and roar as with wine, and they will be filled with sprinkling bowls, drenched like the corners of the altar. Well, first, before we move to Revelation, because that's where this passage takes us, we're going to go first to, is it here? Micah. What does it say? 8. And we discovered who the remnant, not of Jacob, the remnant of Israel. These are the daughters, the 10 northern tribes of Israel, identified as that stone cut out without hands. That's why you get the Spirit understanding there. Nobody cut them out but the Spirit. Their mother cut them out. They are an express image of their mother. When the shield, when she comes upon them to protect them, and she is cut directly out of them. And so that's the twin, the birthing of the twin. None is barren. They have all borne a twin in the Spirit. And so that's that shield. The shields belong to the Lord. The shields of earth belong to the Lord. It says, So here we had them roaring, and now we see why they were roaring. Verse 8, and the remnant of Israel, not Jacob, shall be among the Gentiles in the midst of many people as a what? Not a lion, a lioness. This is Ariel, who was burned to ashes. They laid a siege against her. It says, gather thyself in troops, O daughter of troops, in Micah 5. They have laid a siege against you, and they have struck you on the cheek. That means they silenced her. Well, she's not silenced anymore, because she's now been given the due. She will be in the midst of many people as a dew. That's the water back on her. But if you reject the water, she has the right to cut you away. Plain and simple. That's the rod of iron that you'll see in Psalm 2. And they'll say, a son, my only begotten son? No, my only begotten daughter, my firstborn. The birthright belongs to her. Birth, she's the one that births. He don't. The birthright belongs to her. And the number identified there that says, I have received the decree to declare that I am the only begotten daughter of God, not son, daughter. I have received it, and her number is 136. It is the daughter Zion. I don't care how many times you put son there. And that is the firstborn of the kingdom, known as Ephraim. And she is the firstborn. And the remnant of Israel shall be among the Gentiles in the midst of many people, as a lioness among the beasts of the forest, as a young lioness among the flocks of sheep, who, if she go through, both treadeth down and teareth in pieces, and none can deliver. Thine hand shall be lifted up upon thine adversaries, and all thine enemies shall be cut off. And it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord, that I will cut off thy horses out of the midst of thee, and I will destroy thy chariots. So she's talking about bringing the enemy down, bringing the armies of the enemy down, the hosts of the enemy down, that was handed over to her, to the harlot in Daniel. The host was handed over after she came against the commander of the host, which was these daughters of Zion. And so she returns back as the spirit at the right hand of God, and she sits there until her time comes to strike through the enemies in the day of her wrath. And she uses these daughters as the shields of earth, which is seen as a covering on the high priest's breastplate. They're also known as the ones that walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. That's what they're known as, and they're known as the daughters of the oath. And you can get that through a whole bunch of words and through studying. Now, let's see what takes place first in Revelation chapter 15. Okay, so Exodus 15. Okay, now I'm probably going to be running out of time pretty soon here, so I got to check and make sure I'm still recording. But in Exodus 15, it tells you the whole story. When you get your genders correct and you understand what I just said, with the presence of the Lord, that is what Moses, well, you know what? 43. Let's go to Exodus 15. Do I got Exodus pulled up here? I do not. Okay, so Exodus 15. This is an important chapter because it tells us so much. Once we got it all worked out properly, this verifies it. And it also verifies why Moses could not go into the promised land. He struck the rock. He struck the rock. And the rock was where you received your water from, your doctrine of truth from. So in allegory, he actually struck down the daughter of Zion. And Moses had a habit of going against things that she would tell him to do. And one of those things was Zipporah, when she had to cut the foreskin off of her son. And she throws the foreskin down at the feet of Moses, and she says, "Thou art a bloody husband to me." You know why she says that? Because you see, the foreskin represented the covenant, more or less, of blood, a violent law, that men would adhere to the harlot spirit that would come under him so he could write his laws, which were laws of violence and suppression, oppression, all those things. And so when Zipporah has to do that, and cuts it, she throws it at his feet, and she does it quickly and in haste, it says, because the angel, the Lord's presence, is standing right beside Moses, ready to strike him down. Why? Because he was not adhering to the spirit of her covenant, and she was mad. Zipporah in haste cuts away the foreskin of her son, because Moses had made the agreement that all males would be circumcised. And so she cuts it away, she throws it at his feet. Thou art a bloody husband unto me, she says. And I believe this caused Miriam to sin. This is actually linked to why Miriam got cast outside the camp and began to take on leprosy. Because she actually was siding with her brother Moses in this. And she got mad at Zipporah. And I don't know, there's some strange understanding there. Zipporah herself, because of what Moses had did and was doing, refusing to circumcise his son, it sounds crazy, but it acts like she was actually suffering by she was going dark. And that darkness was actually coming on her in a physical way that you could literally bear witness to it. Or it was leprosy coming upon her and they could see it. And Miriam might have bore witness to that. I'm not saying 100%. But I think this was what led to Miriam being so angry at Zipporah for. And so God puts leprosy on her, a sign of somebody who's gone against her covenant, and puts her outside the camp, knowing that she had just sided with her brother. And so she had, she had extenuating circumstances. It's hard to go against your family. Our Lord is very understanding, but at the same time she had to be punished for what she did, which was to go against Zipporah, which was representing the righteous glory at the time, by doing precisely what the Spirit, the presence of the Lord that was standing right beside Moses ready to strike him dead, for going against her covenant. And he did it again when he struck the rock instead of speaking to it. And so that told the Spirit that this nation of men are going to go against the Spirit of my covenant. And they're going to receive blood. And that's all found in there. When you read Exodus 15, it really is found in there, at least to some degree. There was some allegories in there that just struck me. Let me see. She says, you forgot the rock that writhed in pain to bring you forth, to birth you. And she says that in Deuteronomy 32:18. She says, you forgot all about the presence of the Spirit. You forgot about me, she who gives life. And so she has already identified as the rock. So when he strikes the rock, he's striking her, is what he's doing. And so the Lord here that Moses is speaking of is not he. They got he. Is she. And I'm not going to read it. Thy right hand, O Lord, is become glorious in power. Thy right hand, O Lord, hath dashed in pieces the enemy. I'd love to read it, but I am running out of time. But let's link the Song of Moses, because that's what this chapter is called, Exodus 15. Moses' song actually links us to Revelations 15, and then in Revelation 16, the bowl judgment. But let's look at Revelation 15 first, okay? So Revelation 15 says this. It says, and I saw another sign in heaven, great and marvelous, 7 angels having the 7 last plagues, for in them is filled up the wrath of God. Who was promised the wrath? She will strike through kings in the day of her wrath. So I'm going to say that this is the last 3.5 years, which is dealing with the wrath of God. Now the interesting thing here, they're singing the Song of Moses. So the Song of Moses has to do with the presence of the Lord and her victories that she had here on earth, which then is also going to take you to Isaiah 63, where the Lord says, where is she who put her spirit upon Moses? Right there, Isaiah 63. And she says, in Isaiah 63, verse 11, and prior to that, she's the Lord that comes and strikes through enemies in the day of her wrath. You see that all in the first 10 verses of Isaiah 63. And she has on a red outer garment and I believe a white inner one. And it has to do with this covenant. And so then she remembered the days of old Moses and her people saying, Where is she that brought them up out of the sea with the shepherd of her flock? Where is she that put her Holy Spirit within him? So she's looking for the presence of the Lord, which is still here on earth. She's always been here on earth. But she's been cast out into the wilderness, is the sense that you get off of these bodies. Though she's seen sitting to Christ's right hand in Psalm 110. And so then you see her in Isaiah 28 coming as this shield. But she's, is it 28? I got the wrong passage here. But you see her as the Lord that comes from the south. Right? And she's a shield on these daughters. So she's the spirit that's taking them back. So the Lord asks, where is my spirit? Where is these daughters that descend, in a sense, from the original foundation, is what she's kind of asking. And so in Revelation 15, you see them singing the song of Moses. Where is it? Right there. Sorry. For in them is filled up the wrath of God. Now, until you understand, there's another beast here. All right, there's not another, but one of the four beasts is here. Watch. But we'll read verse 2. And I saw as it were a sea of glass mingled with fire, and them that had gotten the victory over the beast, and over his image, and over his mark, and over the number of his name, stand on the sea of glass, having the harps of God. And they sing the song of Moses. It's the Spirit. Great and marvelous are thy works, Lord God Almighty. Just and true are thy ways, thou Queen, not King of saints. Who shall not fear thee, O Lord? And I believe the Lord here is what I identified in the New Testament as her number, which is 2962. She is the Lord who was, is, and will be. And her number is 2962. She is the sovereign Lord over the entire kingdom, because it is her spirit that was intended to rule the covenant. So, O Lord, glorify thy name, for thou art holy. Only thou art holy. For all the nations, you see, just as the nations all came against her, now they all come to worship before her, for her judgments are made manifest. And watch. And after that I looked, and behold, the temple of the tabernacle of the testimony in heaven was opened. This is Mother coming forth. Identified and linked to the sovereign Lord. So they appear to be almost one and the same, because she's ruling this kingdom. The kingdom is gave over to the saints. So that would be her children. And the seven angels came out of the temple having the seven plagues, right? Clothed in pure and white linen, having their breasts girded with golden girdles. If that don't sound like female, you got me. And watch this. We missed this. And one of the four beasts gave unto the seven angels 7 golden bowls. So we'll remember the word bowl here. Full of the wrath of God, who liveth forever and ever. And so you have these 7 angels. An archangel these represents the sevenfold spirit. They are daughters on the earth, she who bore 7. Arch, go look it up, beginning, chief, that's female. These archangels is representing the sevenfold spirit of this covenant. And one of the 4 beasts gave unto the 7 angels 7 golden vials full of the wrath of God, who liveth forever and ever. So which beast is it? It doesn't identify which one of the 4 beasts it is. That links us to Revelation 6, when each beast says what they say. What do they say? We'll begin. And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard as it were the noise of thunder, and one of the 4 beasts saying, come and see. Okay? And that takes you through these whole 4 beasts, which is seen around the throne. You've got the lion, lioness, actually, the heifer, you got the image of a man, it's not a man, and then an eagle. And these are your 4 beasts. this one here was promised what? What were the daughters promised? They're promised double, aren't they? So I'm going to tell you that this is the heifer, the second beast around the throne, because she represents Israel, who is promised a double portion. She's also the rod of his strength out of Zion, daughter Zion, in Psalm 110, who sits to his right. T-man means south. It also means the right hand, and she strikes through kings in the day of her wrath. Here we have it. And one of the four beasts gave unto the seven angels. So the beast is Israel herself, represented as, actually she becomes the behemoth when she's moving in the powerful manner that she is supposed to be. And the temple was filled with smoke from the glory of God and from her power, and no man was able to enter into the temple. So you have the idea of a very sacred, very precious temple. The house in the forest of Lebanon represented Mother's temple, where she met with her daughters, as we come to understand. It says your living waters will flow from Lebanon. It says your bride is a fountain, a garden, a fountain sealed, and that those waters flow from Lebanon. So her temple was here on earth as well. Then what does it say? Now, these bold judgments are important to understand. They are so important. So, let me see it. I'm just going through here, because there is so many passages. It's amazing. I've gotten most of them. I'm missing a few yet. Yeah. I might do this one at the end here. So, what's the seven bold judgments? Which links you to that passage in Zechariah, which isn't on this same line. No. Yeah, it is. What does it say? Then the Lord will appear over them, and her arrow will go forth like lightning. The Lord God, it's 136, will sound the ram's horn and advance in the whirlwind of the south. It's also going to take us to that army in Joel 3 who climb over the wall. These daughters were shot at by Baal as they passed over the wall in Joseph's blessing. Joseph represents the 10 northern tribes. The daughter Ephraim is the firstborn of mother, the first fruits also, and represents that. And so the Lord God will sound the ram's horn and advance in the whirlwinds. Oh, we didn't do whirlwind. The Lord of hosts will shield them. She's the spirit that comes upon them from the right hand of Christ. They will destroy and conquer with slingstone. They will drink and roar. They are the lioness who none can protect from, as with wine. And they will be filled with sprinkling bowls. They will be filled like sprinkling bowls, drenched like the corner of the altar. Now, Revelation 16. What does it say? And we will parallel this. So, Revelation 16. And I heard a great voice out of the temple, saying to the seven angels, go your ways and pour out the vials of the wrath of God upon the earth. So as they do this, you see it taking place here on earth, and it is the shields of earth that she has possessed with her spirit, and coming from the right hand is where she comes from, to be the shield. And the first went and poured out her vial upon the earth, and there fell a noisome and grievous sore upon the men which had the mark of the beast, and upon them which worshipped his image. What came upon Miriam? A sore, a grievous sore, which was a symbol of going against the covenant of God. That's what that was. And that's what happens here. A grievous sore comes upon the men which had the mark of the beast, and upon them which worshipped his image. Upon the men and upon the women. Verse 3, and the second angel poured out her vial upon the sea. Oh, look. And it became as the blood of a dead man. And every living soul died in the sea. See, she's giving them blood. And the third angel poured out her vial upon the rivers and fountains of the waters, and they became blood. So you see what happened with the admixture of doctrine. The blood poisoned the truth, which is represented by the water in the well that it was supposed to come from your wife. She is the jar that holds it, a golden bowl in symbology as well, that holds that water. She is told that she is the well of water, the water that you're to receive. In Proverbs chapter 5 and in Songs 4:12, we're told she flowed like living water from Lebanon through the breaches, as Solomon calls them, and then daubs them up and installs a harlot and takes away the key of David. They were also called the key of David, that flowed through those gates of David's wall to the rightful houses that was built on the wall there, that you see Solomon have tore down. And he also deals with the Milo, which has a great deal to do with the house in the forest of Lebanon. And so here you have the fountains, rivers and fountains being poisoned, because when you poison your main source, such as Euphrates, which flowed out into 4 rivers, then you see the rivers, fountains, and waters becoming poisoned with that blood as well. So that is the law of violence that the men perpetuated against their sisters, against their righteous sisters, against their righteous brothers, and began to suppress, oppress, take away rights under those laws and say, well, they're the God, they'll do what they want. And the harlot spirit that he puts in play does that. And we see that she's the curse in the basket. Ephah is a measurement of grain. And God says, I'll not receive your offerings anymore. And when the one-armed man says, I'll give you the first thing out my door if you'll let me win this battle, it was his daughter for a reason. God wanted the daughters, the best that you had. And she says, you brought me your harlots. And she becomes very angry, and she set boundaries. She said, I'll not receive anything else from you until you bring me my first fruit daughters. And this is what this is about. She was the last thing created. She is the ruler of the kingdom restored. And the third angel poured out his vial upon the rivers. Okay, and they became blood. You're not washed in blood. You weren't found guilty in it. So she says, fine, you want blood? I'll give you blood. You can wash in it. You can drink it. And also give you your grievous source for not following my truth. And I heard the angel of the water say, thou art righteous, O Lord, 2962. We identified that as daughter Zion's number. You see, she is the Lord that strikes through kings in the day of her wrath. This is her wrath playing out. Thou art righteous, O Lord, which art and was and shall be, because thou hast judged thus. So this is Israel, reborn out of the dust of the earth. And she brings her spirit and she puts it back on them. They are the twins. Everyone has born a twin. And I heard another out of the altar say, even so, Lord God Almighty, true and righteous are thy judgments. And the fourth angel poured out her vial upon the sun. What did we discover about the sun? And power was given unto the sun to scorch men with fire. So what did we discover about the sun? The Shulamite says in Song of Songs, look not upon me because I am black, because the sun has looked upon me. My mother's sons were angry with me. They made me the keeper of the vineyard, but my own I have neglected. She became black because black in scriptures, as we realized in an allegory in Lamentations 4, that it simply means to be without the doctrine of truth. So here, the sun is pouring down upon them. You want the lie, you'll have the lie. And men were scorched with great heat and blasphemed the name of God. Guess what blaspheme leads you to? The understanding. Defamed. Debased. What were them women in Zephaniah 18 who wore the yoke upon their neck? It was a yoke upon them. It was a burden upon them. She says, I will get thee fame and praise in every land where you have been driven to and put to shame. So you blaspheme the name of God, which has power over these plagues, and they repented not to give her glory. No, not going to do that. And the fifth angel poured out her vial upon the seat of the beast, upon his throne. That's Babylon. And his kingdom was full of darkness. Darkness? What does darkness mean again? To be without truth. And they gnawed their tongues for pain. They're gnawing their tongues for pain. And black, because you know what? They're gnawing their tongue. Because the sword is an allegory to your word. Here it looks like they got nothing. They've even kicked the harlot off. They got nothing. They're gnawing their tongues for pain. And they blaspheme the God of heaven because their pain and their sores. And they repented not of their deeds. Verse 12. And the sixth angel poured out her vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared. Now I have not studied this, but it's interesting that the river Euphrates is dried up, because that takes us to what the Lord says in Isaiah 42. Right? What does Isaiah 42 say, if I can find it? What does she say? I will make waste mountains and hills and dry up all the herbs, and I will make the river and islands, and I will dry up the pools. And I will bring the blind by a way that they knew not. I will lead them and pass it they have not known. So maybe that's what's going. No, this is the wrath falling. And the water thereof was dried up, the way, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared. It does say that the east will learn from the west. It's allegorical. I can't remember where the passage is. And I saw three unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon. That's the Trinity. Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. And out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. That's the beast kingdom, is allegorical to a system of violence. In the mouth of the false prophet, those that back the lie. For they are the spirits of devils working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and the whole world, to gather them to the battle of that great day of God Almighty. So I think, if I get the chance, I'd like to put another video up on the day of the Lord. And this may factor into that some more understanding. So, behold, I come as a thief. Blessed are they that watch and keepeth their garments, lest they walk naked and they see their shame. Just like they did in the very beginning. The light came not on them. They no longer had the garment of God. Their garment changed. And we're told that her garment and his garment changed because of the force. And you find that in Job 31:32. It's 31:32. It says her garment was changed. And she was talking about no longer holding the light of God. My mother's sons were angry with me. They made me the keeper of the vineyard, but my own I have neglected. So, but everyone has birthed a twin, you see. So, you're looking at a lot of allegories and a lot of verses that you've got to pull together in order to get your greater understanding. So, and the seventh angel poured out her vial into the air, the principality and the power of the air, what governs it. And we're told that is the harlot spirit that man exalts in his heart, that governs the air, that is the principality of the air. And there came a great voice out of the temple of heaven from the throne, saying, it is done. And there were voices and thunders and lightnings, and there was a great earthquake, such as was not since men were upon the earth, so mighty an earthquake and so great. So that links us back to that great earthquake in a prior chapter, because these are all interconnected. And the great city was divided into three parts. And the cities of the nation fell, and great Babylon came into remembrance. Yep. Who exalted Babylon? Well, we went to those men of Ephraim, whose crown, it gets tossed down. Their crown was the harlot spirit that they exalted in their heart, and they took into their land Israel when Balaam said to Balak, go get your women and send them in, and they poisoned the men of Israel at that time. And God says the controversy, the day of the Lord is about the controversy of Zion. The controversy of Zion was about the splitting of the pleasant land. The pleasant land was represented by her daughters. And you split that into two covenants, a harlot and a righteous spirit. And you see them both in allegory in Galatians 4, chapter 4, the two covenants. And so, what does it say here? What city fell? All the cities of the earth falls. But it mentions Jerusalem, doesn't it? And we know that the men exalted the harlot Babylon in the midst. That fed out to the four corners of the world, the lying theology, the false doctrine. Torah is a law written by the hand of man. They imputed violence against their sisters into that law. We're told that in Malachi 2. They wrote the law of bitter waters. These are just two. There's many of them that they wrote into. It's the man-made covenant between the man-made law, which represents the covenant between the harlot and fallen Adam, where he gets to exalt himself as God. And so, and the great city was divided into three parts. In the city of the nations fell, and great Babylon came into remembrance before God to give unto her the cup of the wine of the fierceness of her wrath. It says shameful spewing will come upon your foreskin. It says that in Habakkuk 2, verses 15 and 16. You think you're going to get away, do you, boys? And every island fled away, and the mountains were not found. And there fell upon men a great hail out of the heaven, every stone about the weight of a talent. And men blasphemed God because of the plague of the hail, for the plague thereof was exceedingly great. Now, that takes us up to Job, where God says, I've stored the hail for my end days. Judgments. Stone is also female. In Old Testament, it's Hebrew number 68. You want to look that up. But it also takes us to that whirlwind that wants to take down the wall, takes down the wall that has been daubed over with untempered mortar, which is just a whole bunch of lies. And that's why you see the daughters climbing over the wall, which then leads us to that mighty army in Joel 2 or 3, which we hope to take a look at in the next video that I intend to put up. Did I go over everything? I mean, I have other things that I could speak on, but I have to end the video somewhere. And, you know, we all do our own study. If we want to go in and we really want to know the truth, and the truth should matter enough for us to go in. Although it says there is appointed a core group, and it's the first fruits. It says the rest will be blinded. But yet you see God's shield coming upon these daughters. They're the roaring lioness. That's what they're called. And they laid a siege against her, and it says in Micah 5, gather thyself in troops, O daughter of troops. And and they're called the shields of earth. And it's all there if you want to study. The crown goes to the daughter of Zion, the mother. You see her in heaven, in the heavens, Revelation 12. She's travailing to bring forth her children, and her firstborn that will rule with a rod of iron. And that firstborn of the kingdom is the birthright holder. She comes from Joseph's blessings, describes her blessings. When you go in and you read Joseph's blessings in both Genesis 49 and Deuteronomy 33, they describe a female's blessings, not a man's. It's the birthright holder, the firstborn of the kingdom. She says, Ephraim is my firstborn. And she is a heifer that loves to tread out the corn. So you get the idea of truth there. She's treading out truth. She's treading out her first fruits, her best that she has to offer. And so you get all those allegories and understanding the more you study and the more you look up words and whatnot. And so there's a very long video. I thank you for watching. I hope you're blessed with an abundance of truth. And Oh yeah, I had one more verse that I did want to read. If I can find it now. It was in Corinthians, I think. Do I have it here? Oh, now I can't remember where it was. I'll write it underneath in my thoughts. You know, it says God uses the weak things of the world to confound the mighty, and the foolish things to bring the things to naught. And you think I'm foolish, you think I'm weak, maybe stupid, just don't understand. And yet God says these are the things that God's going to use to bring down the things that are. And they're going to seem foolish, they're going to seem not to make sense, they're going to seem to be stupid, and yet those are the things that will bring the kingdom down. And I'll put that verse underneath the video if I can remember to do so. I had it wrote down on my paper here, I thought. Now I can't find it. Let's see, I'll flip it around here. It's not there. Sorry. So I thank you for watching my video. I appreciate it. I just don't see it. Yeah, this was the one. I think this was the last thing I was going to share. Okay, so sorry. This will be the last thing I share. I couldn't understand the word hebelum, and that word appears in Zechariah 11. Is where it appears, where she takes two staffs and she writes her name on one, and she writes band on the other one. Well, when you go in and you look that word up, hebelum, it's Hebellim. It gives the number in interlinear in that word, but then when you go in, it's not that word at all. It's a different word that they give. Shabal or cabal, Chebel is what it gives. A rope as twisted. So it's like, well, what do you mean? What does that mean? And yet it's the word hebelum, Hebellim. And so what I found was Elim. And what I come to realize that word meant was palm trees or terebinth. And heb is a word I found, the closest I could come to the translation of hebelum, it means cherished, forced, or cherished trees, or beloved trees. So you're looking at, in a sense, Lebanon, but you're looking at the newly planted tree, or the roots are holy, so are the branches. So the root was there, now she's blossoming again. And this was who her rope was with, or it has the idea as twisted. Alright? So who was under attack when Balaam said to Balak, go get your women and send them in to the men of Israel? And we're told right in when we do the studies that it was the woman's seed that was under attack when Balaam told Balak to go get your women and send them in. You see? But these were her cherished ones. These were. And just like Sarah, when Abraham thought, oh, I'll bring in Hagar. And God says, what did I tell you? I told you it was Sarah. And so what that hebelum means, her cherished force, the cherished ones, the cherished women, the beloved. And that's what I come to realize that branch that she writes the second on meant. Or that's what I believe it to mean. So sorry for babbling. But I just thought I'd share. Thanks for watching my video. I appreciate it. Hope you're blessed with an abundance of truth. And I hope you have a really good evening. What's it, the date here today? The 19th or 20th. Honestly, can't remember the date now. Let me see here. It's the 19th today. So I hope you have a good evening. And thank you.